if we're in the hamster wheel all the time and we're constantly busy and constantly distracted, no new ideas can come in. All the spaciousness where creativity lies and expansion lies is blocked up. And so if I'm constantly doing and I'm not leaving space to be, I'm not leaving space to listen, I will continue to seek all my answers outside of myself. Our answers are inside of us. We're probably just not creating the space to listen.
I'm Amy Jo Martin. Welcome to the Why Not Now show. You know that thing you've been thinking about doing? Yeah, that one. Why not now? Have you ever actually taken the time to ask yourself, what's stopping me? Let's talk it through. This is your chance to give that idea the attention it deserves and take action. Each episode, I have a chat with a fascinating person, from entrepreneurs to athletes, celebrities, my parents, rocket scientists, and all walks of life. We talk through a critical time when they've asked themselves, why not now? We dissect that day or even that moment, step by step.
Just let go.
Danika Brysha is on the show today, and I hope you can hear me smiling because she's one of my favorite people. Danika lives out loud. She has spent the past decade building her brand and showing up on social media and being her authentic self. This all started in a very organic, innocent way, which she shares on the podcast episode. And we talk through how this happened, how this grew, what she did, because she has one of the healthiest, most robust, and caring communities I've ever seen online. And I've been around the block. I've witnessed a lot. So Danika kind of found herself years ago in this dire straits moment. She decided to just start sharing. She launched her first company. She does a lot of different things, but she just launched another company called Self-Care Society. So when it came time to do that, she had an audience that was already built in. She had people who were ready to show up and support her because she'd been building this over time. And that's one thing that I think is so important, and she makes this point, that if you're building your presence online, you're building a foundation for everything and anything you do in the future, not just whatever you're doing right now. So this is investing in yourself, and this is the equity of your brand and your presence for the sake of your future. Like all of my conversations, of course, this is wide-ranging, and she's a friend. So basically, you're going to hear us chit-chat, but we discuss what she did when COVID hit, because she also models. And of course, she can't be flying around doing that. So she lost a lot of her revenue that was coming through that channel. And she decided to launch something before she was ready. And that is the Self-Care Society, which I'm a member of, and I cannot speak highly enough of it. You have to just check it out. It is extremely innovative. There's nothing like it out there. And this was a vision that Danika had for the future. It wasn't necessarily meant to launch right when it did, but she decided to go for it. And she decided to just go all in. And it's amazing what she's been able to build in a quick amount of time, but also get that feedback loop turning. We also talk about how to leverage social media imposter syndrome. How to do this in order to uncover your true self so you can start sharing in a way that really lights you up. And Danika talks about dealing with social media fatigue, how to recognize it, and what to do in those situations where she's found herself just fatigued and ready to take a step back. Danika also shares some productivity tips, and just in general, as you listen to her, you can understand her journey. And she kind of takes us along that path and how she's turned her economic model into something that's more scalable, that transcends her. Without further ado, let's hop in with Danika.
How we spend our days is how we spend our lives. For me, being able to design my own day is a non-negotiable. As many of you know, I'm a bit of a time management nerd. So when I find something that allows me to be more efficient and more effective, I want to share it with everyone. So here's the scoop. I have a new tool in my productivity tool belt, and I'm a bit obsessed. It's Monday.com. My team and I have never felt more organized, and I have a new sense of perceived control. My to-do list is no longer the boss of me. I feel more in control because every project, initiative, date, and task is captured and organized in one place. And my team is in the loop and involved every step of the way. With Monday.com, it's like I have a brand new operating system. There's no long list, and everything has its own home, its own deadline, its own team member that's assigned and associated, and it's color coordinated. We all have multifaceted jobs and businesses. There are many components to my business, and each and every one of them has its own compartment. Each division is always one click away. For example, my team and I have a dedicated board for this very podcast. Did you know there are 28 steps involved in getting one podcast to air? It's the same exact process every time. And it's a system. We have the various key steps mapped out as micro tasks. And this allows for my team and I to stay in lockstep every step of the way. With Monday.com, I can zoom out and see the big picture, a roadmap view from 30,000 feet. And a moment later, I can zoom in and focus on a specific micro task within a project, within a division of the company. I could go on and on about the features that Monday.com offers, one of which is I've built my social media content calendar inside of Monday.com. I finally have one that I actually use, that I like, and it's embedded into my overall Google Calendar. Another feature that I love is the Google Doc integration. You know I love a good spreadsheet. I can pull them into Monday.com and edit them right there versus having 97 tabs open on my computer. If how we spend our days is how we spend our lives, then I can't think of anything more important than using the time in our days wisely. Head to Monday.com if you want a free trial. And let me know on social media how it goes for you. Shoot me a DM. We can swap tips and tricks. Danika, welcome back to the show, my friend. I'm so excited to have you, and let's hop right in. Can you tell me about a time when you had a big decision to make and you had to ask yourself, why not now?
Thank you for having me. What an honor to be back here. And I know we talked about a why not now moment together years ago when I was on the show. So it's a gift to be back, and actually really exciting to talk about sort of the fresher why not now moment. And I'm sure that the current state of the world is bringing up a lot of why not now moments for people. So I think the timing's perfect. The thing that comes to mind is most recently when, with COVID and all of that, I've been making the majority of I'm an entrepreneur. And though I have my business model meals, which I talked about on our last episode, there's been an idea that's sort of been in my heart for years that I've been talking about wanting to launch. And it's a business called Self-Care Society. And the idea is that it's sort of like a fitness membership for your spirit and soul. So like you would take a yoga class, maybe online, you would take a self-care class online where you visualize and manifest and meditate and breathe and connect and journal and all of those things, lots of the woo. And so I've been modeling pretty full time as well. And that's really been the main source of my income. And with COVID, that came to a screeching halt. And it was a place that I depended on for my income and for my livelihood while I built up my other businesses. And it just stopped. And so, along with that stop was a pause that I think I'd been asking for a long time. So I can't be mad about it. I definitely was saying, I don't want to travel so much. I'm burnt out. I want to be home. I want to, not, sleep in my own bed more. And so COVID sort of gave me this spaciousness that I think I was always craving. And it gave us the perfect opportunity to launch this business. The timing was absolutely what people needed. People were now trying to homeschool kids and work from home and navigate, isolation and all of this. And this idea from the beginning was all about bringing together like-minded community to practice self-care together, to bring people, essentially help people leave class feeling happier and more optimistic and empowered than when they came. It's a soul workout. And so I always thought, my business partner is my brother on this, which has been super fun, and we always thought, okay, we'll launch it maybe towards the end of this year. It just kept getting pushed. And when COVID happened and we saw that we had the space and that it was more than ever necessary and could be a really beautiful and impactful thing for people, we just decided that why not now start? And we did it, and we did some test class, and then we took that and we kind of created like a founding group, and just sort of over the last 3 or 4 months built out this entirely new platform and social network and experience that has been beyond my wildest dreams. So it's been a real gift. It was certainly a why not now moment. It was definitely not planned to start. We didn't have some big business plan or really any big conversations. We just sort of started. And I am so grateful that we took that route, because what it has given to me and what it has given to all those in the community has been really powerful, especially during this time.
Wow. And I echo this 100% because I've been fortunate to take part and really experience Self-Care Society in the very beginning. And it's amazing how it fills such a void that I didn't know that we all had, right? Everything started going online, like our fitness, to your point, fitness for your soul, that's like the number one thing we need. It's such an innovative idea. And so I'm so excited for you too. And what a quick turn, when we think about how things on all of our worlds were shook up in a matter of days, weeks, you just got after it. So talk about a why not now moment. What I think is so beautiful about this, Danika, is that you had the vision a decade ago to start building your presence and brand online. And it has served you throughout all of your businesses. And definitely you're seeing the ROI of that now, because it would be really tough to launch this without any voice. So if we kind of rewind and look at, you have all these different revenue streams, some of which just kind of stopped, like you said, with modeling. And you look back to the early days of when you decided to make a concerted effort to growing your platform. Can you tell us what was going through your mind and just kind of how you started? Because so many people don't even know where to start. They maybe have been using Facebook personally and Instagram for friends and family. And now they're like, oh, I really want to monetize this. I want to make some money. So how did you get started?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's been such a gift to, I went through Renegade Brand Boot Camp. I don't know why that's a mouthful today. And just have always seen such power in personal brand, because, here's an example. I talk about in self-care, there's the foundational 4 elements of self-care, which I believe are sleep, nourishment, which is how we eat and drink, movement, and mindfulness. And these 4 things that I believe have to be in place to do the deeper work. They're the foundation. They're the things that nurture our physical vessel, which is our body that we actually experience life with. And that has to be in order to sort of expand and grow and go a lot deeper. I think a personal brand is very, very similar in the sense of it is the foundational element that will support you in whatever you end up wanting to do. And I think it gives us permission to evolve when we build a personal brand. It gives us sort of not a fallback plan, but the foundation. If the foundation is built on who you are and you're showing up authentically, then you can never do that wrong. And so for me, I got on Instagram, I want to say it had to be somewhere around maybe 2010, 2011. So it's been about a decade. And I started through, I was a plus size model at the time, and I still am, but I started really about sharing in that sort of arena. And that kind of had me fall into the body positive space, which was wonderful. And then I found the Whole30, which kind of guided me into this idea of wellness. And my life was just so changed by how I ate. And I started sharing that. So I started sharing my food journey, and that food journey kind of led me into the self-care world, where I spend, a lot of my time now, which meditation, mindfulness, inner work, all that sort of stuff. And then all of this sort of led me into entrepreneurship, which is the businesses that I have that sort of come from my struggles and been turned into my strengths. But what you asked, essentially, it's, getting started and the role that this has played. I mean, it has been the foundation of my businesses. It has been the time I invested answering every DM and showing up on social consistently and providing content and providing value as a personal brand, as Danika Brysha, has fed everything that I've built since. And so when I launched Model Meals, I had a client base built in. They were already there. Mm-hmm. And then when I launched Self-Care Society, 10 years later, after I've really built this community and engaged genuinely. And, we did a tour in 2018. So we met thousands of people from my community during our event series tour when we were on the road for 10 months, which was really beautiful to meet people sort of outside of the digital space. So when we launched Self-Care Society, I had this foundation of people, some who've been around for nearly a decade and know me as a person. And so when we launched it, they knew what I was all about. And it wasn't even that they needed to know what the business was all about, but they knew my values, and they knew who I was, and they saw my journey. And because I'd shared so vulnerably all these years and so openly, they saw themselves in my journey. And I believe that the more authentically we share, I mean, in the beautiful ways that you shared your journey having Lincoln, I mean, people see themselves in you. And if they can see themselves in you, and then you go on to do something that's inspiring, you just gave them permission to do the same. It's such a gift, right? I'm such a believer in living out loud. And so it's been critical. I mean, if I didn't have a personal brand built, it would have been a lot harder. A lot of hard work went into building the personal brand. But if I were to tell anyone anything, it would be to focus on get that in order. Build a brand around who you are. It's near impossible to mess that up if you're being yourself, because no one can say, hey, you're doing that wrong. No, I'm not. It's not who I am. And so it's a beautiful foundation and feeder into whatever you're going to want to do. And I also want to stress the fact that as human beings, if we're living an authentic life, it's likely that we're going to evolve and we're going to have different interests every 5 years, 10 years, whatever. We're not going to stay the same. And having a personal brand in place as a foundation is really going to be critical as you evolve and give you permission to not stay stuck in something that no longer lights you up, even if it was your passion for 5 years, right? So moral of the story, it has been such a gift to me. It's been, the catalyst and the probably spark plug for everything that I've done is knowing that I've sort of removed an element of business to a certain extent, which is getting people in the door, because I built that first.
So smart. What vision you had. And it's a sense of freedom to shift, evolve, rebrand, pivot. And we've both done that with our careers. And there's such reassurance and just, peace of mind to know you've got some equity in a place that you can dip into at any time with almost anything, and see a return. And it's you. It's just you at scale. Which brings me to, we use this term brand. And I feel strongly, you don't brand yourself, you are yourself. That's your brand, as do you, because you just explained the same thing in different words. And I think people really get hung up on trying to create something new. And really it's more of uncovering and continuing to share, like you said, living out loud. What tips would you have for someone who is just scared that nobody's going to care what they have to say?
Yeah, I love that question. I work with women primarily, and I think one of the things that I hear so much is this idea of imposter syndrome, this idea of who am I to be the expert? Who am I to do this thing? Or also, what I also see happening quite a bit is we tend to follow and consume content from people who have like-minded interests from us. And so what I found is in our perspective, in my perspective, I might see that there are already 100 coaches talking about self-care. So why is there space for me? Whereas Amy Jo, maybe you're not following the 100 coaches that talk about self-care and you're just following me. And I'm actually the only person on your feed talking about self-care.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we're doing is we're looking at the world from specifically just our lens and forgetting that there are a lot of people out there who may only have access to you, who may only be able to meet you, hear your message at the level with which, or the language with which, or the energy with which you are sharing it, or may only relate to your experience. And so I think when we're starting out, I think the biggest thing is just consistently showing up and not concerning ourselves so much with who's listening. I think it's more about consistency. I think it's more about authenticity. And I think it's a really beautiful tool, if nothing else, just to look at it as a way of uncovering yourself and sharing what lights you up. And the most beautiful thing is it's like dating, right? When if we show up to a date, and we show up and we dress in a way that we think they want to see, and we speak in a way they want to see, and we act in a way that we think that this person wants us to be, and we match with that person, that version of us, that masked version of us matches with this person, then what happens 2 months down the road, 3 months down the road, when you kind of get involved and the masks fall off and you realize, oh wait, we're not actually aligned.
In alignment.
We're not actually compatible. Right. So if I show up on a first date, like I did with my current partner, and I'm just like, here's my crap. Here's who I am. This is what I'm going through. At the time when I met Billy, I was living in my parents' garage and I was super in debt and trying to start Model Meals and was really kind of struggling at that point. And he had just gotten sober. He was in recovery and living in sober living. And we were both just kind of like, here's the situation. And I say that because it's the same thing with social media. It's the same thing with a personal brand. It's that if you show up trying to be something that you're not, you're going to attract the wrong audience. And you're going to be sort of just treading water. Whereas if you just showed up as yourself all along and trusted that the people out there that align with your authentic self, they're there and they will find you, then it creates a lot less work for us. Not to mention it's a lot more fulfilling and it lights you up. So I think to answer your question, I mean, if you're getting started or you're afraid to speak up, I just think it's a reminder that we're all here for a purpose and for an impact, and you not shining your light might be you keeping that permission that someone else needs to see. You're keeping it from them seeing it. I think about all the people that I've seen living these big, beautiful lives that inspire me. And had they not chosen to show up and celebrate themselves and express themselves and live out loud through their personal brands, then I would have never given myself permission I wouldn't have known that was possible. And so you have to remember that you staying small is not just hurting you. It's hurting all the people that need to learn from you, that need the permission from you, that need to hear what you're saying.
Well said. It's amazing how you look at just business in general, and you have a variety of, you have a pretty diversified set of revenue streams. I mean, I know they've been shifting, especially with the pandemic, but one requires you to get on planes, modeling. And then you have Model Meals, which for those listening that may not be familiar, it's a meal delivery service. And then, of course, you have Self-Care Society. And then you have partnerships and things like that, too. So I think it's interesting, too, how here we are encouraging people to really consider building their voice, their brand, their presence. A lot of times I hear, well, I don't have anything to sell online. But in reality, first of all, we're all always selling all the time. We just don't realize it in whatever we do. And if you're authentic to what you believe and who you are, then you don't even realize it, right? It doesn't come across that way. But I even look at modeling, and I imagine, having worked with really high profile people with my first company and celebrities and things, I know for a fact when it came down to auditioning and or getting a part in a movie, their social presence really mattered, because like for modeling for you too, if there's a big brand that's going to book you and you have a big presence and someone else that they're looking at may not have the same, you're going to have a bit of an edge, because if not more than a bit, you will probably share your experience in some way with this bigger audience in a really authentic way. And so there's huge value in that. So there's always a way to bring it back to ROI, in my opinion. And sometimes the forms of conversion lead up to money, but they're not always, may not start. It's a connection at first, right? So you've spent so much time responding to DMs and connecting at a legitimate, genuine level that ROI has come over time. But can you talk a little bit about that, how you realize that connection obviously is everything, but how you make the time for it, how you do connect, with the community the size of yours, but also find the time and make sure that community is healthy and happy and getting value.
Yeah, I mean, what you talked about regarding opportunities, absolutely. I mean, with modeling or really anything. And we've seen that change quite a bit since I got on social. It wasn't a thing really for the first maybe 5 years. And then social has become so big and personal branding has become so big that it is critical. And it is critical across the board. And one thing that I really realized, I love self-experiments. I'm like a chronic self-care experimenter. And just like personal growth experimenter. And I did an experiment a couple of years ago when I took a month off of social. And I just wanted to see like what happened, and I knew it was healthy for me. And I was like, I'm just going to take a month off. So I took a month off. And what was super, super interesting for me was to see that I didn't really notice much. Like I felt good about it. It was the month of January, maybe 2-3 years ago. I felt good about it. And then what I noticed in February was what was really interesting. The opportunities that I was used to receiving, whether it was, hey, come on my podcast, or hey, do this thing, or here's the partnership or whatever, the opportunities disappeared. And it wasn't even just paid opportunities. It was people it was like friends reaching out, people reaching out, because there's something about having a personal brand and a presence and showing up that reminds people of who you are and what you're about. And so the more that you can get yourself in front of as many people who are willing to listen to you or see you or hear you, the more you are creating opportunities for yourself in the invisible realm. There's so much happening that we can't see. I'm a big fan of the woo. Like, give me all the woo-woo-ness. I'm a huge visualizer, manifest. Like, all of that it's so powerful. It's changed my life. So I can't not be. And there's so much happening. And so social, just on that front, the ability to be seen and create opportunity for ourselves is a big part of that, right? So many of the big opportunities that I've had in my life have come from social, have come from people who've either followed me for a long time and just something came up and they said, oh, I actually think you'd be perfect for this. Or, I also talk a little bit about the idea of being seen in general. I think is really important. I talk about this, like I get dressed most days during COVID or quarantine, and I get dressed up and I, get ready. And yes, granted, I'm on video quite a bit, so that plays a part in it, but there's something about getting dressed, putting on normal clothes and, getting ready, a little bit ready for the day. Granted, I don't have children. I don't have as many things, but, we all have different situations, but there's something for me, at least, to just put on some normal clothes and maybe a little bit of like a lip color or something. And it sends an energetic pulse, an energetic vibration into the world, even if I'm not seeing anyone and I'm at home for a week at a time or a month at a time. It says I'm willing to be seen. And there's something energetically about putting myself out there that creates opportunity. And I think that a personal brand and social is just that times 10. It's just the opportunity to be seen. It's the opportunity to magnetize opportunities. And so it's been pivotal, and everything that I've done has been pivotal. And you sort of asked how to juggle nurturing that community. And, I think that you're never, like, there was a time where I'm going to answer every single DM and, whatever it was. And then I had to really come back to this conversation around authenticity. And my brand is self-care. And if I'm staring at my device for, 8 hours just in Instagram DM so I can send everyone a heart emoji, like, that is not me being authentic. That is not me showing how to set healthy boundaries. That is not me teaching people to how to live a life that feels really full. And so I have to come back to that. So do I answer everything? No. Do I show up on social today like I used to? No. I have a lot of different communities that I engage in, and a lot of them are not public. Self-care society is a private community, and that's where I spend, 80% of my energy now. But I do show up as it feels natural to me. And it has been such a gift. And I do not take that for granted. And I try my best to use my platform responsibly. It does feel like a lot of pressure, but it's something I'm up for that growth. And I just do my best. And I think because I've been super vulnerable and super real, I have just authentic conversations. And also what I want to say is I've attracted, followers that are like-minded. I don't get a bunch of creepy DMs or messages or weird stuff. I just don't. It doesn't mean that there's not conflict, of course, but I feel like most of the people in my community are very aligned, and that's been really beautiful. The more I live authentically, the more I magnetize people who are also on a similar path and attracted to my message. And I've learned so much from my community. I've had so many opportunities from my community. I mean, I can take the best vacations ever now because I say, hey, I'm going here. What do you recommend? Yeah. And I'll eat at like all the best restaurants and I'll go all that, it's like, it's such a gift. And I try and share that with my community too, make it a public post so everyone has it. But it's really incredible. It's really powerful.
We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. Hey everyone, I'm hopping in here to give you a heads up on some news about something I've been building for you. The number one contributing factor to my career growth has been growing my personal brand online. It's changed my life, and I want the same for you. This asset is one that you will carry with you forever, regardless of what you do. Does building your personal brand online feel uncomfortable to you? Or maybe you're putting in the work, but it's not translating to an ROI? What if I told you there's an easier way? A way to turn your story into your biggest asset. Our story is what makes us human, after all. I created something to help you make connections that convert. And I'm not talking about getting more likes or follows. I'm talking about dollars. Making money. I'll be sharing the same strategies I've built and applied to personal brands like Shaquille O'Neal and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. To be the first to know of the official launch and join my waitlist, head to amyjomartin.com/waitlist. amyjomartin.com/waitlist. You talked about showing up and being willing to be seen. And psychologically, there's so much to that because I think it's really more of an emotional, more so than logical decision when people really make a decision to put more effort into building their presence and being seen and sharing their voice. And so that's an intentional decision. And given everything, the state of the world and what we're going through with health crisis and economic crisis, if you want to call it that, some would agree and some would not. But I think people are ready to stop hiding and really show up big. I see that more and more with people coming, to me and saying, I'm ready. Finally, I'm ready to stop hiding. And there's something so valuable about doing that for yourself and really giving yourself the attention that you deserve too, to kind of to put yourself out there. And one of the things that I think is just so incredible with you is the community you've built. Just in general, it's one of the healthiest communities I've seen. And that doesn't happen overnight, of course, but you can't fake it. And so I think that's back to what you said in the beginning. There's one way to do this, and that's to be yourself. So there's no magic potion per se, but then consistency is so key. So when you are, in a place where you're just a little bit fatigued with social, or if you just find you're not getting the same energy, do you just put it down? Do you just take a break? Detox, or what do you do?
Amy Jo, It's an ongoing conversation.
I just did one. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, I mean, it's so nourishing. I have pretty good boundaries around it. Pretty good, I should say. But it's also a beautiful reminder when I'm deep in social. And when I mean deep in social, I don't mean like deep in like creating content and engaging with my community. I mean like deep in the dark scroll and the like endless hours and numbing out. For me, it serves the same purpose that when I emotionally eat, it does. Like it's just an awareness. It's just it's a very clear thing that says, oh, something's going on here. Something's not nurtured here. You probably need rest. You're probably overwhelmed. So, I notice you and it allows me permission to take care of myself in better ways. And sometimes I just want to do the mindless scroll. But in terms of from a business perspective, I take every Monday off of social media. And in exchange, I provide my platform to anyone who is an expert, whether they have 200 followers or 2 million followers, anyone who's interested in taking over my Instagram stories and sharing a little bit about what lights them up. That could of course be valuable for others in the community. So for me, it's been a really beautiful way to provide value. It feels like a triple win. It provides value to me because I get the day off of social. It provides value to my community because they're learning something new. And it provides value to the person who is coming on to take over my channel because they get this new audience. They often grow their community and, get to practice sort of showing up in that way. So that has been a really beautiful gift. And I think that if you think of a volcano or an earthquake, I don't really know. Clearly, this is not a good example, but if you think about this idea of like releasing pressure over time, I think that my Mondays off social have sort of done that for me in a way that it doesn't build up like it used to. That being said, for me, first and foremost, I'm an entrepreneur. And it's really hard bridging that gap because it all goes together, right? This idea of like influencer, entrepreneur, personal brand, they're all connected and really important and critical. But I also find that sometimes if I'm on social and like doing a really great job at social, it's usually because everything else everything else gets behind, like my email inbox is super overloaded or I didn't get something done. So for me, it's a picking and choosing. I don't have anyone on my team right now for Danika, Brysha Inc., which is sort of my social, situation because I don't have revenue right now. I do in different businesses and that's kind of a different story. But for me, I'm sort of a team of one. It's been really a beautiful opportunity to scale back and say what actually matters, what's actually translating, what is that 20% of your work that is actually creating 80% of the results, right? I know you talk about that. And so for me, when I'm tired, I would really I want to call myself out on the fact that I'm just really working on that. I really think I want to really start trying because even on Mondays when I'm not on social, I'm still super plugged in. And I think in general, I would really benefit from a day free of devices, laptop, phone, like just a device free day. Maybe start doing that on Saturdays more. So I'm working on it. I think we all are. It's an interesting thing because so many of us work from our devices and especially from social, but we also have to create boundaries because if we're in the hamster wheel all the time and we're constantly busy and constantly distracted, no new ideas can come in. All the spaciousness where creativity lies and expansion lies is blocked up. And so if I'm constantly doing and I'm not leaving space to be, I'm not leaving space to listen, I will continue to seek all my answers outside of myself. And that's something I always talk about is that our answers are inside of us. We're probably just not creating the space to listen. So as a business owner, if you're trying to take your personal brand to the next level, the thing I would say is like that it seems contradictory to take a day off of social media. But it actually is probably one of the greatest things that you can do because you can step back and see the big picture and listen for the answers and listen for the clarity that will guide you into what the next most efficient step is.
Yes, 100%. What makes it difficult, I know on my end, and you can probably relate to this too, is I can see the direct impact when I'm on in terms of our business, whether it be podcast downloads or, even revenue through certain streams. And I think that's where setting up systems and having processes and delegating, if you can, certain parts of the process, you never want to delegate your voice, is key. And you've had, different experiences with that over time. So it's like you said, You don't want your opportunities to dry up or your revenue, but at the same time, that's what makes this tricky, is because it's not like a logo. You are human. What's your number one kind of productivity tip when it comes to social media?
Oh, I love that. So I have, between my businesses, I have 3 social media. No, I'm sorry, I have 4 social media accounts. And I do not run all of them. I really only run my personal brand. But like you touched on, I think one of my biggest challenges has always, Model Meals is an 8-figure business. We have about 25 employees. It's a big business, and it's actually been relatively easy with the amazing team we have to scale and to grow the business, because I'm not the product. Right. So first, it's been easy. Self-Care Society is sort of similar. It's easier to scale because I'm not the product. I shouldn't say easier to scale. It's a little bit more clear how to scale. With a personal brand, it can definitely feel really challenging to know how to grow while maintaining, like you said, your voice and your authenticity and the story behind it. So what I like to ask myself in the case of personal branding is, I have to come back to, what can only I do? Mm-hmm. Like, what can I not delegate? And for me, that's no one can film a toxic camera Instagram story as me. Like, maybe with like a really good prosthetic. I'm sure these days they have it, but like, no one can do that, right? No one's going to talk on the podcast. No one is going to speak on the panel. So I really have to think about, first and foremost, what are the things that are impactful for my brand that only I can do? Mm-hmm. Then sort of it also brings the conversation of, what do I like to do? Because that's really important, to do what you like and what lights you up and what you're good at. And the others, I've definitely had a team before on my personal brand side as well. And it has been so powerful to delegate a lot of that. So for, a lot of these things that I do, like my daily quotes and affirmations, we actually do those on Self-Care Society now. I used to do them on my Danika Brysha Instagram, but I had my media manager who would build those and post those for me every day. So it wasn't me logging in all the time and getting distracted and posting those, and handling, she would handle all my takeovers and stuff. So delegation is huge. Even if only to just free up an hour of your time to just sit there and listen inward, and for social, I don't run my personal brand like a business, I would say. I think I would really benefit from doing it. I just don't. I don't know. It never really we've tried before. I think to be honest, my bandwidth is just not there right now. But I think if I were to take what I do with Model Meals, or take what I do with Self-Care Society and apply that to my business, it would be really effective. My personal brand would be really effective to have content built out and to do it all sort of in block, and I do it in bulk and write it all out in bulk so that it doesn't feel like it's a long lingering task. I just, create space for it. So I have a lot of efficiencies I'm working on there, but those are kind of some of the things that really help me to align with what matters. Like, my values are really, I will not show up and teach people wellness and self-care if I'm not practicing it. Like, that's not cool, so that's really my priority. And I have to really surrender to the fact that what's supposed to get done is going to get done. And I'm also never going to finish my to-do list. Like, there's no day that it's all going to be done. So it's more about me setting healthy boundaries than it is about just being more efficient and productive.
Amazing. And with your day, let's talk more about productivity and just time management, because you do have, I've seen your calendar, you do have a lot of things going on. How do you manage your time? Like, what's one tip that you might be able to offer that just allows you to get more time for you, but also to be able to do what you want to do in terms of productivity?
Yes. I mean, for me, it's self-care. That's the reason I'm such an advocate for it. I believe that my self-care routine is really me priming myself for the most efficient day possible. So I always say that self-care doesn't take time, it makes time. So if I spend 30 minutes or an hour on self-care, whether I'm moving my body and I'm meditating, journaling, like practicing mental health, taking our Self-Care Society classes, when I do that, the efficiency that I have throughout the day, the intentionality with which I operate is so much stronger that I get so much more done. And so I don't lose that time. I'm also I'm a morning person. Actually, I got to say, I don't really believe in morning or evening people. I just believe it's based on what time you go to bed. no one's gonna be a morning person if they're sleeping for 5 hours. Like it's just not gonna happen.
Right.
I'm a huge advocate for sleep. I think sleep is the number one self-care tool. I think that's the most important thing. And ask me again when we have babies and, and we'll see, like, hopefully we can make that work somehow. But sleep's a big thing. And so I really found that I looked at my day and I noticed that at nighttime, the hours sort of in the evening were typically they weren't my favorite hours of the day. I didn't do anything that was really nourishing or productive. And I remember thinking, what if I traded 1 or 2 of these evening hours? And instead of going to bed at 10 p.m., I went to bed around 8 p.m. And I tacked those onto my morning. And so instead of waking up at 7 a.m., I woke up at 5 a.m. And I started doing that a few years ago, and having a morning routine where I fill my cup first and take care of me first has been life-giving. I mean, it is why I do everything that I do. And I hope that I can share that with people, is to be able to fill your cup and to take care of you first and foremost, even if it's just, 15 minutes and that's all you can squeeze in, it matters. It makes a difference. And so for me, it's organizing my calendar and everything I can possibly delegate to technology I do, because if I have to carry around something in my head and I have to stress about remembering that something's happening, that's creating more stress for me. And I don't want to do that. I mean, I just got my blood work done, and it was pretty impressive that my levels are what they are, given all that I juggle. And I credit that to, obviously how I eat, but also the stress management, the self-care. I really am a huge advocate. It's non-negotiable for me to find ways to take care of myself, even if it's just 5-10 minutes a day.
And what a good opportunity to kind of explain if someone wants to come and try out Self-Care Society. First of all, I love that they're like, you can get your morning going, get your day going. And what a good way to kind of become an earlier riser. But tell everyone and it kind of explain what happens when you join Self-Care Society.
Absolutely. So, we do a 14-day free trial, like no questions asked. You don't even have to call or email someone to cancel if you want. You can cancel it. So we do a 14-day free trial, and we have a 100% happiness guarantee. So 97% of people who take our classes say that they leave happier than when they started, 97%. And so basically what it is they're 30-minute classes. They're all live. So the reason that we did everything live is because I noticed with I work primarily with women. I noticed that they were having a really hard time showing up for things that required them to use their willpower to be there. And I loved like taking a class pass or something like that, because for me, it eliminated some of the willpower that I needed to make the time for it on my own, because it could keep getting pushed. So everything's live. It's 30 minutes. It's a virtual call. It's done in community, and we work through. It's basically a 30-minute self-care routine that has a combination of a lot of different activities. So think about, if I teach a class, I might do meditation, breath work, journaling. We might do intentionality. So I help you sort of schedule your day with balance and self-care. We'll write gratitude. We might do a visualization exercise or manifesting. And then people who are watching the classes can come in, volunteer, and come on videos too. But in general, you're not visible or audible. So it's more like a webinar format. And then we have a whole social platform. So we built a social media platform essentially based on empowerment only. So there's no follower counts and there's nothing to buy. It's all focused on, and you get, the whole site is gamified. So you get points based on loving yourself and others. So every time you log your self-care, your digital self-care checklist, you get points, and those points can ultimately be used to buy things in our store, like bonus workshops and swag. And you get points for supporting other people in the community too. So it's really about positive reinforcement for showing up for yourself and others with self-care. And so it's tools, it's resources. We have a lot of different stuff in there, but it's just really powerful. There's a couple different guides. I teach classes as well. And then we have different workshops, like monthly planning workshops or specific workshops on self-love. But the bulk of it are our core classes. And I always explain it like it's like Peloton, but for your spirit and soul. So like a Peloton bike where you sit and take a live Peloton spin class with people live, taking a live self-care class with other people. It's really empowering. It's really beautiful. I'm super proud of what it is and what it's shaping up to be.
I love it. Me too. I'm so proud of you. And it's been amazing to witness it evolve and the concept go from literal idea, thought starter, to execution. I love that process and just witnessing, and it's very, very cool. So congratulations. If you don't mind, can I do quick rapid fire round?
Yeah.
Okay. What keeps you up at night?
Kingsley, my dog, climbing in and out of bed. He's 215 pounds and he just climbs in and out of our bed all night. I know that wasn't really like the thought behind the question, but that's the reality.
That's okay.
I think I would say like my big thing would probably be just, I want to always make sure that I'm being a good person. And I know that sounds simple, but I really always want to make sure I'm using my platform responsibly and that I'm speaking up and that I'm not taking for granted the very privileged and abundant life that I have and not getting too close to that and away from everything that's going on in the world. So I think something I really just try and sit with and understand how to do better is how to show up in this world, whether it's for racial justice, social justice, I mean, everything that's going on in the world. That's my challenge. And that's where I want to always be doing better.
What's something that you've read recently that you found really interesting?
I am reading a book called A Happy Pocket Full of Money. And dang, I forget who writes it, but it is all about, like, it's not just about money. It's about manifestation and abundance and quantum physics and how our thoughts shape our reality. I mean, I'm a huge Joe Dispenza fan. So his stuff is really like putting science to a lot of this woo-woo stuff. And then I'm also reading a book called The Calling by a woman named Raw Goddess. And she's just incredible. I heard her speak and she's just the straight up goddess. So that's been really great.
Pirates or ninjas? Who's tougher and why?
I think I'm going to say pirates, because damn, like pirates are real. That's a real thing. I went on semester at sea in college and it's like a cruise ship where you go around the world for school. It's great. Anyway, but they had to stay on the boat when we went through certain areas of the ocean with power hoses because there were true pirate warnings.
Whoa.
And it was a real thing. And so I'm just going to I got an emotional connection to my fear of real life pirates.
There you go. Wow. That's like a really very interesting answer. I've heard, of course, anything similar. And that's like, you've gotten close there. What would you tell your pre-COVID self?
You asked for this.
Wow. And what do you mean by that?
I mean, yeah, the amount of times I said, I don't want to travel so much, or I don't want to model anymore, or so much. I want to start Self-Care Society. I want to have more downtime to read and take baths and do that. This is exactly what I asked for. And, it came with a lot of hardship. It's been a hard time as well, but it's exactly what I asked for. And without this time, I wouldn't have started Self-Care Society. God knows when I would have ever started it. And it is the greatest gift. It brings me so much joy. And it's also given me time to really be a little more hands-on with my Model Meals team. And we're growing there. And, it's exactly what I asked for. And I know now at this point in my life, that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. And through the times that are really hard and stretch me, they grow me so much. They're a part of my story. They're a part of my personal brand that makes it's like full circle here. What we talked about at the beginning, it's that vulnerability and the authenticity is I get to share from those struggles. And how it turned into strength. And so I know I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, even on the times where it's hard and I'm like, how am I going to pay my bills and all that? It's just, I asked for it. I'm very cautious with what I asked for and and I'm learning more and more about how absolutely articulate and perfect I need to be with my words and my thoughts, so I end all my manifestations now with this or something better. Because that invites room for flexibility.
There you go. There, you don't limit or cap yourself. Well, thank you, Danika, for joining again. And it's always fun to follow your journey. People can follow you at Danika Brysha on Instagram, which is BRYSHA, but also selfcaresociety.com.
It's on Instagram, we're at Self-Care Society. Online, it's myselfcaresociety.com. So my selfcaresociety.com, and you can do the trial there. And then Model Meals is modelmeals.com.
Gotcha. Sorry about that. So we'll make sure to include those in the show notes as well, a direct link. And thank you for sharing your time and wisdom. It's always just the highlight of my day when I get to talk to you. So I appreciate it.
I feel the same. Thank you so much for having me.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening to the show. Hit me up on social media to let me know what you think. I'm at Amy Jo Martin on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And I want to hear your Why Not Now moments so I can share them on the show. Just send me a note to whynotnow@amyjomartin.com. For show notes and other offers, you can visit amyjomartin.com/whynotnow. And while you're there, don't forget to sign up for my email newsletter for exclusive content and announcements. A big thanks to Rock Salt Music for all of the tunes by the talented John Coggins. And of course, a hat tip to Richard Brewer for editing and producing the show. I'll see you next time. And until then, why not now?